once again. This is video number 13. Today is December 25th. And decided to make a video today because, well, there's nothing open, no communication with anyone, so other reason is don't have a lot of time left, so this will probably be the last video for me. No longer have access to food, water, etc. So if I seem a little groggy today, apologize, but feel a little bit lightheaded, so maybe some mild dehydration kicking in. So today I'd like to talk to you about black operations, same title as my book. And I apologize for the noise outside. What you're hearing is dynamite and bombs, which are usually used for sleep deprivation. They sometimes use them in the day as well. It's been going through 10, 11 countries they use them, so I try to pick a quiet spot, but I no longer have a quiet spot to do that. So now I've as a result of the well, before I go off on a tangent, let me just start with black operations. We'll take it from there. So if you're not familiar with black operations are military operations carried out on behalf of a corporation or government. So when a corporation or government needs something done that's really sketchy, that they need to disconnect themselves from, they can hire like former special forces people to do whatever, contract killing, etc. So in my case, that former Special Forces individual's name was Aaron Miller from Halifax, Nova Scotia, and he's a former Special Forces PSYOPs team leader who's become a private government contractor. Private government contractor, I mean a mercenary, so a contract killer. But his mechanism is PSYOP, psychological warfare and economic warfare, to destroy the opponent. Or who they view as an opponent, I guess. And it's worked. So PSYOP's different torture mechanisms. Isolation is one. The other, sleep deprivation, is another. So going on almost close to 2 years, I guess, of sleep deprivation. So it's not that I can't fall asleep. It's that they'll set dynamite and bombs off like that all night long, and it doesn't matter where you go. Also, sometimes, like even if you're on a little cul-de-sac or something, like they also use car alarms, which really annoying car alarms. They make 6 different sounds, and over the course of a week they'll set them off like 211 times. So it's a lot. Not in the course of a week, sorry. I obtained data over the course of a week, and during that time it averaged out to be 211 times a day, right? Small little cul-de-sacs where there's no traffic. So, I got the headpiece in, so I'm not sure how well you can hear the bombs and dynamite, but here they're quite loud. It's not firecrackers. I've talked to people in previous countries, and here as well, it's bombs and bombs and dynamite. So yeah, it's quite loud here, even if you can't hear it. I say here, as a result of economic warfare, became homeless. There's an individual here. This is just an abandoned house. He's a former terrorist interrogator, alleged anyways, former terrorist interrogator, jungle survival training, all kinds of weird stuff. So I don't know, maybe he's like a special forces guy, I don't know. Don't care at this point. Doesn't matter. They only got a few days left anyways. Yeah, without water you won't last much longer than that, I don't think. So in any event, to distance themselves from it. CIA does this all the time. They use a variety of extremist groups, so they place you on uh, message boards of extremist groups, so that they can basically get them to target you. Some has been Ahmed Ishmael and a Jewish extremist group thought I was a German extremist. Had a German extremist group thought I was a Jewish extremist. Recently had a guy named Jason, who's part of a religious extremist group called Soldiers of the Cross, approach me. And these people have pretty radical views, man, pretty extreme views, right? They tell you all kinds of stuff. They say that this is happening because you're disobedient to God, is what he said. And, the way to make it better is by joining his group and carrying out, what they do to people, which is their zetzing. But you can see how the intelligence agencies take advantage of these groups. Venezuela, the woman said it was because of what I did in a past life. That's why I was and she believes it's okay to torture and kill people today based on that, right? What they've done in the past life. So you can imagine how dangerous these beliefs are and how easily these people can be manipulated into targeting an individual. So, so the last 2 years have been a nightmare. What else should I talk about? Things I've never talked about before, like the incident at the interrogation at the Guayaquil airport. I was brought into a room with 20 people. That's what I knew about the organization. Had my information run through Interpol, etc. Said nothing. Didn't know anything. If you're going to make an inference, I was there for 3 days trying to get a flight. Picked up the flight pattern. They go to Cali, Colombia. They go to Medellin, Colombia. They go to Amsterdam. They go to New York. They go to Miami. They go to France, right? So this would be the distribution of drugs for the cartel. That's how they would normally move things, based on the very limited amount I know about them. So, you can make an inference and say, well, it's probably what they're doing because they only fly to those places first. Peru, I think, was the other. But these are known places where they like to ship. So, you could infer that maybe they got, with the CIA's help, of course, CIA moves drugs with them, that they stopped moving by private jet. They just bought the airline and security. Make things a lot easier for them. But who knows, right? Something else was people told me to go to Aruba, might be safe there. Purchased a flight there, couldn't fly, right? So, there's a lot of things that happened, haven't talked about. People have similar experiences, so across the board. Same tactics are used with PSYOP. Things to lower morale, economic warfare, etc. And if you really want to find this stuff, the good stuff, guys, you got to search. You got to set the Google search parameters to be searching within the last few minutes of things posted. There, I've seen things like homeless guy having his shoes stolen by police or people dressed as police. I've seen cases of horror stories, false positive, false negative pregnancy. So, like, a guy was deprived of his kid for like 12 years, and then she told him it was his kid. This happened a few times, actually, stuff like that. Then there was also cases where the woman was pregnant and told the guy that she had his kid, and like 18 years later said it was never his kid. So there's a few cases of stuff like that. So so it's pretty disturbing, right? And these are people who are talking about the other things as well, about zerzetzing and stuff, and so it's not just like these lone incidents. These people are gone through the ringer, and it's so horrific. People never believe it, right? Because people will say, "Well, who would do that?" Right? Well, if you don't have $15,000 to spend on in vitro and you're at risk of going to jail, you become an FBI informant, right? So, So, and that's what makes the system run so well, is that it is so unbelievably horrific that people just never believe it, right? But in reality, millions of people are reporting it online, so yeah, it's happening, guys. You can deny it all you want. You can attribute it. You can say it's a mass delusion that everybody across different nationalities, different genders, different sexes, different languages are reporting the same thing. It's real. It's horrific. So here in this abandoned old house here, I'll take you for a little tour. Not much to see, but she's pretty rough. Less cockroaches than the last place, but all this stuff is his. This creepy little neck chain here looks like something the Mexican cartel might wear. His bed there. Mine there is just a mattress on a piece of plywood or whatever. No pillow or anything, just a little sweater. And the mess in that guy's excuse, it's not mine. It's just my stuff's all on my suitcases here. You got one light. Said I have no access to water or food. There is a fishing rod. So if I became a fisherman in the next 2-3 days, maybe I'd live. But I've never fished a day in my life, so I've said I'd never heard a living creature. So sink. Yeah, if you want to wash your clothes, I guess you could wash it in there maybe. Bathroom here. So, if you don't have like hot water or stuff like that. Yeah. Just like I guess I don't know if you call it a window or whatever, but just if you wanted to open it, you could. No fridge or stove or anything like that, so you can't like buy groceries or anything. You don't have money to buy it anyway. There's a plug. Plug works. So that's it. So not the ideal spot to end up, but nonetheless, that's what's happened. That's what economic warfare does. They starve people to death, or if they're in a place like Canada, they might freeze to death, right? So, the intelligence agencies can set up, provoke incidents within homeless shelters or whatever, have people thrown out into the street where they freeze to death, right? So, what else should I talk about? I don't know, like, Julian Assange said that the experimentation is still going on. I'd agree with that. 100%. Yeah, they do some weird stuff to people, man. In particular, research at Knock Lab at Harvard should be investigated. The suicide research funded by Department of Defense. The research on impulse control needs to be investigated for potential for terror creation. Devin Parenka's of Derek Ruth's lab at McGill, CFB Labs or whatever. His research on disinformation needs to be investigated for reasons of propaganda and also for essentially behavior modification, false beliefs, brainwashing essentially. And also on terror creation as well, because he does some indicators for stuff like that. So they may be trying to provoke people into it. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have a whole lot to chat about. So don't bother with casket or anything like that. Parents don't have the money. Just cremation is fine. Ashes, backyard, family house in Hammonds Plains, please. And Down the road, any money comes out of this settlement, give it to Luke.